Hello, and welcome to the War in the Pacific, where it's the 24th of March, 1942, in the Wirraway versus Encircled play-by-mail campaign. Continuing to redeploy forces. Permit operating off Hokkaido. Okay, so our heavy cruiser cover force intercepts the British cruiser task force. That's good. These are C and D class British cruisers of World War One vintage. They should not stand much of a chance against the Mogamis. We'll speed through this. Now we have another cover force. Let's see what happens here. So he slips past the other cover force and gets in amongst our transports. Let's see how this goes. UAP's pretty heavily damaged. Akatsuki, heavy damaged. Dauntless is sunk. Some disabled squads, but let's see what happens here. Fortunately, we are very close to port. That's okay. So our troops from Port Moresby have completed loading and are moving. I expected that he would try to have his ships return to one of the nearby ports, and that he might put up some cap. So I swept the nearby bases. Looks like we caught some hurricanes. So it looks like Chittagong was their base. One of the damaged cruisers is probably still here. Well, the ones that were able to make Chittagong got there. Glad he's going after Raipur. And that worst outcome would have been for him to continue to pound the 5th Division in its blocking position. Nels, after the sweeps go in, aren't able to catch up with the two. E-class cruisers. Gritting his P-40 force at Clark. Also, depending on how he's micromanaging his pilots, potentially killing some of those pilots that have benefited from the kills over Manila and Clark. So going after the airfield at Raipur. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Ugh. Oh, what a mess. I set objective hexes just short of where I wanted to move, but accidentally set them as coastal, so the unit's unloaded. So now I'll have to reload. Very one-sided losses in artillery, though these tend to be overstated, but okay. That was a bit of a mess. A couple good learning points in there, though. First, let's check. He lost a lot of hurricanes. Falcons must have been destroyed at Tarakan. These were destroyed at Clark. Sally's, Lily's, Oscar's, Betty's, Dinah's, B-17E. That's always good news. Okay. Let's talk briefly about what happened in the Bay of Bengal. So his spendable cruisers. I can see she's going to sink. Akatsuki might make it if I can get her in port, but I need to get. So normally I have life empty ships with these task forces. Doesn't look like I organized this one this way, though there may be some extra capacity, but I'm going to have to reorganize these guys here. And I think I'll just, because I have to go back through Diamond Harbor to get to Calcutta, the damaged ships, I'll just try to get there and offload, following behind a cruiser task force to clear the way of these enemy ships. These guys were hiding out here, but my transport task forces who were here, I ordered to withdraw, but I set this coastal hex accidentally as the target, so they've unloaded here, uh, which pain. It's not critical, but it's a pain. I should have picked the hex one off the coast or made sure they were set not to unload, which is the correct thing to do. Same thing here. Instead of setting Singapore as the target, I had set this hex as the target uh, and forgot to click do not unload. Or I should have picked one hex further out. This is just trying to deceive the allies as to where these reinforcements are going at any given point in time. Again, not a devastating issue, just clumsy. Brunei's fallen. Not a lot of oil here, but it's good. Tarakan. Oil is mostly intact. That's good. And now we can move on Samarinda and Balikpapan, actually, in the zip of that. He's down to just a handful of fighters due to the losses on the ground over the last couple of days. But we'll keep pounding away at the airfield at Clark. Task Force 30 with troops covered by cruisers has completed its pickup mission and gotten out without so far any trouble, which is a little surprising, but that's what's played out. Same here. More engineers. And supplies arriving at Wallace Island. All good. Anything else? So the cruisers on their death ride could head back to Madras. Probably Ceylon. But we'll see if we could cut those expendable cruisers' lives short. And minimize any troop losses to the Imperial Guard as we're offloading around Calcutta and Diamond Harbor. I think that's generally doable. And start cleaning up this mess I created by scattering these task forces or withdrawing these task forces under the threat of the Allied Cruiser Task Force. So, learning points again, while those cruisers appeared to have been deemed expendable, and they certainly have suffered losses. They did cause a good bit of chaos in my operations in the Bay of Bengal, part of their purpose, presumably. Some of it was very much self-inflicted, but it was a reaction to those cruisers. I think we sank Dauntless and Caledon, that's known. At least one other is damaged, two others are damaged. So we'll see if we can catch them on the way out. They're not as fast as either of our heavy cruiser task forces, but one of the heavy cruiser task forces has got to get the amphibious task force safely unloaded. So that will be its mission. The other can. Right now, there's no real evidence he's got other other ships operating in the Bay of Bengal. We've got pretty good air search uh, out to most of the Bay of Bengal at the moment. Um, so it doesn't appear to be a follow-on task force or something more vicious. So we'll focus on dealing with what we've got. Let's just check to see how the 5th Division is settling in. Disruption is still pretty high. Little or no losses. Runway Raipur is closed. Okay, so our primary focus is going to be getting the Imperial Guards safely landed here this turn in China. So the 9th Independent Mixed Brigade is moving on Nanning, 40th Division along with the 17th, 15th, and 34th, and the artillery is still moving towards Luqiao. No change there. Tank and artillery is redeploying for the crossing of the river where we already have the bridgehead. Good. Submarine in the Aleutians. Okay. And we know at least one submarine operating in this area off of Kaido. Nothing too noticeable here. Okay. Well, interesting turn. Some some good lessons of what not to do when you're trying to manage your task forces. So don't set them to a target hex that happens to be a coastal hex. Or if you do, make sure to set do not unload. And I look forward to our next chance to talk.